Welcome to TNT Episode 12, Book Second to the Last.
Well, we are at the beginning of the end of the Narnia series.
Sadly, yes.
Yes. But we're not to the end of the end yet.
Not just yet.
That's the good news. But eventually it will come to the very end, as C.S. Lewis would put it. There is a difference.
There is a difference, as you will know if you watched our last video.
Our previous video. If you don't know what we're talking about, watch our previous video on book third from the last. We are now on the second to the last book, book number 6 chronologically, called The Silver Chair. That's what we're going to discuss today.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk about the plot. What actually happens in this book? We're started off with two characters. One that we've been introduced to before in this series. His name is Eustace Scrubb. Eustace ties in because he's a cousin of the Pevensey children, but this now is kind of continuing on without those kids, Peter and Edmund and Lucy and Susan. I think
Even C.S. Lewis forgot her by the end of the series, so it's okay if we forget her right now.
So Eustace Scrubb, now he's Good Eustace.
Good Eustace. He doesn't deserve his name.
Yes. And Jill Pole. And they're at a school called the Experiment House.
Very interesting name.
Yeah, I think he was commenting on trying new things, and he didn't seem to look real highly on experimenting with education. Yeah. So these two children end up wanting to get away, I think, from the other students. And so they're trying to get away from kids that are bullying them or whatever, and they end up calling on Aslan, because Eustace, for some reason,
brings it up.
thinks that that's what they should do, because he's been to Narnia before. He knows about Aslan, so he calls on Aslan. They say, Aslan, 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 and they end up being brought to the world of Narnia. And when they get there, Eustace ends up getting kind of thrown off a cliff or something.
He flies away. It's the beginning of the book is odd. It's one of the most
well, there's
awkward
a point to it, though, because Jill didn't do what she was supposed to do and help him, and so he ends up going bye-bye for a little time, and Jill ends up encountering Aslan, and then she's given the mission that they're ultimately going to go on, to find the missing son of Caspian, the king. And his name is Prince William. So they have to go find him, and Jill is given 4 different signs, which are basically directions that she has to follow. Aslan gives her these 4 signs. She has to memorize them and try to keep to them in order to find the prince. They're accompanied by a interesting creature called a marshwiggle. His name is Puddleglum.
Yes, he's a
Puddleglum.
frog-human thing.
Yeah, and the name is
pretty.
Yeah, you can tell it's very fitting because Puddle, Glum, and Glum is also very reflective of his character as well.
Fits his character very well.
And they end up having ultimately to go down way under the earth into the underworld or underland to find the prince who has been taken captive by the evil queen. What we really like to do in these books is draw out some of the teaching themes, because that's why C.S. Lewis wrote these books.
You notice that we were a little light on the plot details. It's partially because there hasn't been a Weldon Media adaptation of this book yet, so there's no chance that a good portion of you are familiar with the story at all. There's always the people who have read the books, but at least with the other books we've done so far, we've been pretty sure most people at least know the basics of the story, but we don't.
But if there's no movie, then many of our viewers probably don't know what this story is about. We didn't want to give it away.
There's an old BBC version of the movie, and I don't recommend that you watch it. It's a pretty faithful adaptation, but it's about as colorful as the pages the story was originally printed on. So, I actually recommend listening to the Focus on the Family audiobook because it's a really good audiobook.
That has Taylor's endorsement.
Same goes for pretty much all of the Narnia books here.
The Focus on the Family audio edition of these books, and they actually act out the different parts.
Yeah, everybody's British, but it's okay.
Well, that's fitting.
It is, until
this was written by an author who lived in England. Well, the first one has to do with Jill actually encountering Aslan, and when she meets him, he's standing by this stream, and he offers for her to come and drink from the stream. She becomes very thirsty, and she knows she needs water very badly, but she's scared to go to the stream because...
for obvious reasons.
There's a big lion standing there. And what's interesting is, even though he invites her to come and drink from this stream, he doesn't make it easier for her, because she's very scared of him. She actually was thinking, well, maybe he would be willing to leave. I think she asked him, maybe you could leave for a little while I go and drink. But he responds in such a way that she knows that that's not going to happen. And then she asks him, well, are you dangerous? I mean, have you ever eaten? I mean, you wouldn't eat kids. And he's like, I've swallowed
boys and girls and men and women and...
Yeah. So I make no promises, he says. But ultimately, what he's saying is, you're going to just have to trust me, because I'm offering for you to come and drink. I actually wanted to read something from the Bible, because this is biblical imagery. And in the...
What a surprise. And Chronicles
what a shock.
Book, right?
In the last book of, the last chapter of the last book of the Bible is this idea, this concept of the river of life. And so the Apostle John writes, he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding from the throne of God and of the Lamb. And later in the chapter, it says, the Spirit and the bride say, come. Let him who hears say, come. And let him who thirsts come. Whoever desires, let him take the water of life freely. So that idea of someone who's thirsting and in need of the water of life.
And it fits in with the mindset that a lot of people have of, well, okay, maybe I'll think about this whole Christianity thing as long as I'm still able to do this, and I don't have to do this. They want it on their terms,
right.
But like Jill wanted it on her terms. Yes, I'll take your water, but I want you to go away.
Yeah.
Or assure me that I won't be in any danger.
And Aslan makes no promises. He's saying you have to come on my terms, but what I'm offering you is water of life. And so great imagery there of what Christ offers to people. The water of life, because without it, like what we just read there in the Bible, it describes people as thirsty, and their souls are in need of being satisfied and quenched. And
Jill says, maybe I'll find another stream. And he says, there is no other stream. And she says, maybe I'll just not drink out of it. And he says, then you'll die of thirst.
Yeah. So very, very powerful messages being brought in that part of the story. Another thing is this idea of Aslan, once she drinks of the water, so good news, she does drink of it. She does trust
Spoilers.
him. Sorry. But he gives her a mission and gives her 4 signs that she has to follow. And these signs she's given up on the mountain, and she's told that when you get down into the valley, into basically the regular part of life, you're not going to hear my voice as clearly. So you need to remember what I've told you when you're up here on the mountain. That really describes this high spiritual experience that she's having in meeting Aslan, but now she's going to go down into the regular world with the mission that he's given her. And she is told to memorize and follow these signs. She's got to keep repeating them to herself.
Every night, he says.
Well, another spoiler, she doesn't follow that too well. At first she memorizes them really well and keeps them in her head, but over time she kind of forgets them.
Especially when other things, more worldly things, crowd it out, and she's not as focused.
And the big worldly thing is that when she's on this journey with Eustace and Puddleglum, they're told about this city that they can go into, and they're really tired, they're really cold, and so they're like, oh, we just want to go there. And that's really the point at which she finally just lets go and totally forgets. Basically, these signs that represent the commands that Jesus gives, and that's a great analogy for our lives. We're given commands, but if we get sidetracked, we forget them. We're supposed to remember them and repeat them so that we can follow what we're supposed to do. But like Jill, we don't always remember the way we should. What's another lesson of this book that people might be able to see that's kind of talked about in the Bible?
there's, again, the idea that slavery is bad.
Yes. Yes, slavery, but specifically tied in now.
Slavery to the world and sin and
evil. That basically, when someone succumbs to the power of the evil one, they're in slavery, is the way that it's depicted in this story even. Because Prince Rillian
appear to be happy.
Yeah.
But...
Oh yeah, Prince Rillian, when they meet him, they don't know it's Prince Rillian, but they meet this man and he's very happy. He's always laughing. But there's something not quite right about him, it says. Something about his face that just seems like
it's kind of
off.
There's something going on behind the happy smile.
Yeah,
the same
happy facade.
And then his fellow slaves all appear to all be really just kind of glum and sad. And once the evil that's enslaving them is stripped away, they're happy and joyful again.
Yeah. So that really comes out clearly, even though he's being told by the witch that she's going to give him all these great things, in reality, he's in slavery. And that's a great depiction of...
Kind of a bit like Edmund.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe this is how it would have turned out.
It seems to be a recurring theme and a point that is definitely in the Bible, that when we're just enjoying, so to speak, following the ways of sin, in reality, it brings slavery to sin. You're not really free. Jesus said that you'll know the truth, and the truth will make you free. But without that, really, ultimately, we're just slaves of what sin and the evil one is leading us to do. So that comes out clearly in this book, the idea of slavery. Another one is the way the witch actually talks to these people on the journey, because they're trying to follow Aslan, but she tries to tempt them to believe a lie. And that's very indicative of how Satan tries to get people to follow a lie.
And it's not so much a coaxing kind of situation as we saw with the White Witch and the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It's more of a ridiculing kind of, you're so stupid for believing that, which is really what we see today with just recently the Bill Nye Ken Ham debate.
Yeah, that you're stupid if you follow what the Bible says.
We just recently watched a video where somebody took clips of what Ken Ham said and put them together out of context to make him look like an idiot.
Yeah.
Just because they don't like what he believes, so they decided to put this together to make him look stupid.
Yeah, and taking something out of context is not a fair way to present someone. But that's ultimately what the witch is doing in this story, is she's saying to them, oh, you believe in this lion. Oh, what's a lion? She asks them. And so they're trying to describe a lion to her, and she says, you've just taken the idea of a cat, an idea of something you know in the real world, and you've imagined this greater reality. But it's really this thing that you're thinking of as Aslan is really just taking something from the real world. This is the real world, and you're imagining those other things.
And she takes it to a ridiculous extreme with telling them that there is no other world besides the underground at all. And obviously, if you haven't caught on by this point reading it, it's obvious there was an above ground.
Yeah. Right.
She takes it to a really, I think, an extreme for the point of showing how ridiculous everything she's been saying is.
Yeah. And to them, it's starting to really overtake their thinking, because it's a powerful lie. And that's really a description of when we're told all these different things that sound really good, it can really get us to second guess what we originally know to be true. And that's ultimately what Satan in the Bible is doing to people. He's always questioning, always getting them to question what, if they really thought about it, they know to be true. There's a lot of evidence, but Satan is trying to get them to doubt all the time. Doubt, doubt, doubt. And that's what the witch tries to do. One other thing about the witch is it's interesting when she finally is really angry at the way that they're reacting to her. her true form comes out. And it's the form of...
a giant snake.
What do you know? So once again, I'm going to read something from the book of Revelation that ties in with this. Then I saw an angel coming down from heaven, having the key to the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold of the dragon, the serpent of old, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. Now, a couple things come to my mind. Obviously, C.S. Lewis, when he says that she turns into a serpent, is depicting once again this idea of evil and even this idea of Satan. Now, I know before we've talked about this that whether the witch directly represents Satan is, a matter of opinion. But that idea, though, that evil is embodied by this serpentine creature, which in Revelation, Satan is depicted as a dragon or as a serpent, and now here in this story, the evil witch shows herself to be a serpent.
Mm-hmm.
So, more biblical imagery there, and just obviously
cherry on top of the ice cream.
Yeah, and also ties back to the beginning of the beginning story in the Bible, back in the Garden of Eden. Eve is tempted by a serpent. So, from beginning to the end, the Bible describes Satan with this symbolic imagery. Let's do some takeaways now.
Yay.
These are interesting things that we get as we read these stories, just some interesting things. So go ahead and read the first one.
Well, you see in the last book, there's a fallen angel who is not a rock monster. In this book,
amazing. I thought fallen angels had to be rock monsters.
Well, in this book we have rock monsters, the stone giants, who going back and forth.
They're not fallen angels?
They're not fallen angels, so C.S. Lewis
You're just blowing away my whole
his cosmology.
Ideas. Well, apparently he didn't meet the director of the Noah movie.
I guess not.
Or read a lot of Gnostic literature. Because he didn't get... Well, he probably did, actually. I think Lewis probably knew about Gnostic literature. But anyway, just remember that. Rock monsters and fallen angels really don't...
This settles it once and for all. They are not the same thing.
The other thing that I liked about this book was kind of a reference he makes to politics. I want to read the end of the story. I'm going to get that out here. And I'm going to read a little from the end of the book when Eustace and Jill go back to Experiment House. And they appear, for a little bit of time, Aslan appears with them and scares everybody. And the, the head of the school kind of goes ballistic. And so the police are called. When the police arrived and found no lion, no broken wall, and no convicts, and the head behaving like a lunatic, there was an inquiry into the whole thing. And in the inquiry, all sorts of things about Experiment House came out, and about 10 people got expelled. After that, the head's friends saw that the head was no use as a head, so they got her made an inspector to interfere with other heads. And when they found that she wasn't much good, even at that, they got her into Parliament, where she lived happily ever after.
Politics just don't change. One country to another, one time period to another. People are going to be people, and until people start realizing that, we're not going to have any change.
Yeah, well, it is, apparently, even in the middle 1900s in England, still a good grounds for teasing is to say, hey, if someone is really useless, send them into government. But that's not really... obviously completely true. There are many good people that are involved in politics, but it's still fun to make fun of them, and that's what Lewis does. Another thing, too, is that sometimes when we think of people that are wet blankets, and Puddleglum is one of those people, we sometimes think...
dismal.
Yes. Yeah. Seeing the glass half empty, but...
seeing every movie as a Walden Media adaptation of a book.
You're pretty pessimistic when it comes to Walden Media movies.
Unfortunately.
And even that
I'm working on that.
BBC version of this.
Especially the BBC version of this book.
But sometimes wet blankets are actually really good company to have around. They may not seem positive, but they end up being pretty good friends and pretty helpful people. And that definitely comes out in this story.
And it's nice to be one, too, because you're either always right or pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I guess that's one way of looking at it. But, Puddleglum is actually, just a little trivia thing here, based on C.S. Lewis's Gardener, who was a man that was kind of known for having bad predictions, especially about the weather. And he also liked to sing hymns really loudly.
Yes.
Much to the chagrin of others.
But he was a good-hearted person.
And we say some of these things tongue-in-cheek, but there are pessimists, people that kind of see things in a more negative way. But they really can have the best character qualities. And I do like that about this particular character. So as you read this story, I think you're really going to enjoy the character Puddleglum. He's actually very humorous.
He's a very unique character in the whole series.
Lewis is really making fun of that kind of personality, but really drawing out the good-hearted nature of this person in the end. So we hope you've gotten something from this review. We've now covered 6 of the 7 books of the Chronicles of Narnia. It's hard to believe. But we're coming to the end, the very end. Next time we will cover the last battle. So we hope to see you then.
So subscribe, spread the word, and see you next time.